Before Abu Sufyān met Heraclius, Abu Sufyān's son-in-law had apostatized. Let me give you the evidence, right? Let me just... So that the person in question is ʿUbayd ibn Jaḥsh. Does that name ring a bell? ʿUbayd ibn Jaḥsh. Right? You can find this story. Yes. You can find this story in Ibn Isḥāq, The Life of the Prophet Muhammad, written by Gilliam, 1967. Let me read what he writes, right? Ubaydullah went on searching until Islam came, then he migrated with the Muslims to Abyssinia, taking with him his wife, who was a Muslim, Habiba, and Abu Sufyān. When he arrived there, he adopted Christianity, parted from Islam, and died a Christian in Abyssinia. So that's before Sufyān meets Heraclius. So Sufyān went with him to Ethiopia, to Abyssinia. So he knew what had happened.
Abu Sufyān never went to Ethiopia. No. He didn't go to Ethiopia.
So do you not think he'd ask questions like, why has my relative not returned from Abyssinia?
He wasn't there. He didn't go there.
No. Do you not think, though, like that when his relative doesn't return from Abyssinia, he might inquire as to why? Okay. Isn't that the normal thing to do?
Of course,
right. So what I'm pointing out to you is that in the text of the Hadith itself, the very source of the Hadith is seen to lie to Heraclius because he says something he knows that is not true.
Does it say that Abu Sufyān, the news of his, was it his son-in-law, it said?
What?
Who was it who apostatized? A relative, basically?
Yeah, he was Abu Sufyān's son-in-law.
Right.
So he was a relative.
Okay.
Now you know and I know that Arab families are tight today. They were even tighter back in the day. Like, they were tight units. They still are. It's one of the things that I admire, but
it's possible the news of his apostasy did not reach Abu Sufyān.
But by the time, what's the gap between the episode in Abyssinia and Abu Sufyān going to meet Heraclius? Do you know?
The time span between this event here?
Yeah, this event and the Abyssinia event.
I can't say I do know
it's worth investigating. I don't know it myself. It's a good question for both of us to go away and investigate. But let us conclude. Let us be charitable.
In the 7th century, Arabian society had not yet drawn rigid religious boundaries. Islam was still young, emerging, interacting, and negotiating its place among the established monotheistic traditions of Judaism and Christianity. During the first migration to Abyssinia, a group of early Muslims sought refuge under the protection of King Najash, a Christian ruler of Ethiopia. Among them was ʿUbayd Allāh ibn Jaḥsh, a cousin of Muhammad and the husband of Habibah, the daughter of Abu Sufyān. According to early Islamic historians, Ibn Isḥāq, al-Ṭabarī, and Ibn Saʿd, ʿUbayd Allāh eventually left Islam and embraced Christianity, dying as a Christian in Abyssinia. This account carries strong marks of authenticity precisely because it is unfavorable to Islam. It openly records that a Sahabi, even a close relative of Muhammad, apostatized and died outside the faith. Muslim chroniclers rarely invented such stories unless they reflected genuine memory. Socially, the news would almost certainly have reached Mecca. Trade routes across the Red Sea were vibrant, and Abu Sufyān, being the head of the powerful Umayyad clan, would have been aware of any development involving his family, especially one as striking as a relative converting to Christianity. 2 centuries later, however, a very different picture appears in Ṣaḥīḥ al-Bukhārī. In that famous narration, Abu Sufyān stands before the Byzantine emperor Heraclius. Still a pagan at the time, he gives a testimony about Muhammad, saying that none of his followers had ever abandoned their faith. The story serves a clear apologetic purpose. Even an enemy of Islam is portrayed as acknowledging the honesty and steadfastness of the Prophet's companions. For Muslim writers of the 9th century, this episode reinforced the image of Islam as a morally unshakable faith, respected by the rulers of the civilized world. Yet when we place this story against the earlier historical timeline, a clear tension begins to emerge. The case of ʿUbayd Allāh ibn Jaḥsh demonstrates that at least one of Muhammad's companions had left Islam well over a decade before Abu Sufyān's audience with Heraclius. Since Habibah was Abu Sufyān's own daughter, it is implausible that he remained unaware that his son-in-law had converted to Christianity and never returned from Abyssinia. From a historical standpoint, it is difficult to imagine Abu Sufyān swearing before Heraclius that none of Muhammad's followers had ever left his religion, A ruler as educated and politically astute as Heraclius would surely have considered that apostasy highly relevant when assessing Muhammad's prophetic claim.
Let us conclude. Let us be charitable.
Just to emphasize.
Sorry?
Just to re-emphasize what I'm saying, it's possible that Abu Sufyān, regardless, because look, if he's gone to Abyssinia,
Yeah.
the relative, and he's apostatized over there,
Yeah.
it's possible that news of the apostasy never reached him, regardless of the time span, even if it's 2 months, 2 years, or 12 years, until Abu Sufyān died. The apostasy, the news of that could have perhaps never reached him. That's
Right. So, but it's also possible that Abu Sufyan's son-in-law went to Ethiopia with his daughter, remember, because he's a son-in-law. So we're guessing the wife who was a Muslim, who is the daughter of Abu Sufyān. They stayed there in Ethiopia, and then when his daughter and his son-in-law don't come back, Abu Sufyān goes, why haven't my daughter and my son-in-law come back? And they go, the reply is, oh, because he's become a Christian. That's more possible and more probable, unless these two events are separated by days or weeks.
like I said.
Right, so the important question is to go away and check out, for both of us, because I don't know either, the date. But let us assume, let us be charitable and come to the middle ground. Let us say that Abu Sufyān did not know. But that means that he wasn't in a position to say that no Muslim ever left the religion. And to speak in a way that is erroneous and to mislead people when you're not in a position to know shows that you're not a reliable source of information. Would you agree? If I speak about things that I don't know, it means that I'm not a reliable source of information. All the Muslims in the comments will say, oh, that's true, that's exactly what you are. And they'll use that as an argument against me. Well, I'm using it against Abu Sufyān right now. Saw that? See what I did there?
As I said previously, Abu Sufyān at that time was not a Muslim.
So
what I'm saying is, if he did lie,
yeah.
So I'm not disagreeing with you.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that he didn't lie.
Right.
It's possible he did.
Yeah.
Let's say it's possible he did, but for him, he did not see, like, if Islam, if it comes to, like, for example, like the Hadith and the people who narrate them and their reliability and the fact that they don't lie, they're honest people, whatever it may be. He himself, if he does not feel the teachings at that time of Islam apply to him, i.e. not lying,
Yep.
you know, and whatever.
Yep.
And if one second, and just give me a second.
He didn't lie, by the way.
No, I'm not saying he does. I'm saying
He never lied.
No.
But I tell you
I've shown you that he did lie. I'm showing you that he did lie.
Brother, please let me finish my point, please. And then,
Yeah, he's actually at least dealing with the argument. Go on.
So, if he did lie, I'm not saying he did. I'm saying, okay, perhaps he did. Perhaps he did lie. Perhaps you're right. He lied. But the teachings of Islam he does not feel apply to him. And then later on, he embraces Islam and he renounces his ways, his previous ways of being a liar, if he was.
Right.
Lying there.
Okay.
By the
Right.
way,
Let me finish my
this
point.
conversation during the Hudaybiyah agreement, during the Hudaybiyah, you know, Sulh Hudaybiyah.
Yeah.
This means after the Ghazwat Uhud.
Right.
Okay? So, you have to direct like
Step by step.
yeah, step by step,
Right.
what
Chronology.
happened.
The chronology.
Yeah, historically.
Wait, no offense, bro, but when I tried to give you the opportunity to talk about this, you didn't. He is, so
He
I
is,
want to talk to
he
him.
is. I
I want to
trust
talk to
him.
you because you're actually engaging in the argument that I made. Right. So here's my other.
Can I know?
No.
It's okay.
No, I want to
But
talk to him.
can I
No,
know?
brother,
Give
we
me answer
tried.
for one question and I go.
Very quickly. Go on. What's the question?
One question, please. Nicholas, did his mother follow Arius or no?
I don't know. Okay, now let me come back to you. So in terms of the question, right? Because what I'm trying to, let me be clear about what I'm saying to you. I'm saying to you that I've got strong evidence that your Sahih Hadith collections have a lie inside them.
In the field of academic study, the contrast between the sīrah tārīkh tradition and the canonical Hadith corpus reflects two very different ways in which early Islam constructed its own memory. The works of sīrah by Ibn Isḥāq, al-Waqidi, Ibn Saʿd, and al-Ṭabarī were written with a chronistic spirit, seeking to record events as they were remembered within the collective memory of 8th century Muslim society. Their narratives were not theologically sanitized. They often included tension, failure, and even apostasy among the Prophet's companions. Because they were composed relatively close to the time of the events, Sīrah tārīkh writings reveal the diversity and complexity of human experiences surrounding Muhammad, rather than presenting a flawless moral ideal. In this framework, history was still treated as a field of memory, not yet as a tool for shaping dogma. 2 centuries later, the situation changed entirely. By the Abbasid period, Islam had become a fully established civilization, and the need arose to enforce a uniform theological authority. From this context emerged the canonical Hadith collections, works like Ṣaḥīḥ al-Bukhārī and Sahih Muslim, compiled not to record history, but to define what was legitimate as the basis of law and belief. The validity of a report was no longer measured by its chronological coherence or social plausibility, but by the reliability of its chain of transmitters, isnad. Thus, the term Sahih became theological rather than historical. It guaranteed orthodoxy, not factual accuracy. Viewed through the lens of modern historiography, a clear gap emerges. A narrative found in the sīrah can directly contradict a report labeled Sahih because the 2 traditions serve different purposes. The case of Abu Sufyān before Heraclius illustrates this perfectly. In Bukhar's account, Abu Sufyān declares that none of Muhammad's followers ever left his religion, painting an image of a community without doubt, betrayal, or weakness. Yet earlier historical sources like Ibn Isḥāq and al-Ṭabarī record that one of Muhammad's own companions, ʿUbayd Allāh ibn Jaḥsh, had renounced Islam and converted to Christianity in Abyssinia, and that he was Abu Sufyān's own son-in-law. This means the Bukhār narrative does not mirror 7th century reality. It reflects the theological needs of the 9th century, the need to portray the first generation of Muslims as perfectly steadfast in faith. Here, the apologetic edge becomes sharp. When one identifies a contradiction between early historical memory and the canonical Hadith, it is not merely a single text that is shaken, it is the foundation of the claim to Hadith authenticity itself. A collection labeled Sahih is not necessarily historical. It is the product of ideological filtration, crafted to preserve belief rather than to record objective fact. The Hadith compilers lived in a time when Islam had to appear pure and unblemished, so any reports suggesting doubt, failure, or apostasy among the early companions were quietly removed, reshaped, or replaced.